quickly is how much are we gonna build the bigger plant, then we start incurring those costs. But, yeah, when we say we're building it just for them, that's literally that way. And the city doesn't get upside down on the financing. Yes, ma'am?
All right.
What's your question? 'Cause
Well, I
mine
got
is a totally
several.
different subject.
Oh,
Oh, let's stay on this subject.
I mean-
Yours is related to this.
it's not wastewater, but something else.
Mine's a school.
Go ahead.
School site.
Go.
Let me go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think, Tom, I think you know what I'm gonna say here. Given some of the history we've had in the past with other developments, I would much rather prefer being more of a spokesman, being a school district representative, I'll say, that any sort of land conveyance be conveyed directly to the school district rather than to the city. That, in my opinion, would help us to address some of the problems we've had in the past. Now, whether or not that's doable, I don't know. I realize the argument there about the district has little that they can bring to the table initially because of our timelines and our revenue sources and things like that. But I would like for us to think about that and consider those things to take the city out of that messenger role. Although I will say we're obviously very appreciative of what you and the city have done in working these agreements. The second thing I would say is with regards to the school contribution site and the grade levels and things like that, you know, our demographic study, I don't know if that has been considered or shared. I realize that there's a piece of this that's asking for an elementary site. That may or may not be possible simply because we don't know if we're gonna need a middle school out there. We don't know if we're gonna need a high school out there. It's gonna depend on the demographic numbers and the growth and the age groups that we have out there. Now, obviously, it's more conducive, more, looks better to have an elementary site in a new subdivision because that attracts new families, and so I get that. So that's not a negotiating piece. I respect that, and I respect the developer's right to assert that. Those are my two concerns with this. The rest of the information, I don't have a problem with. The potential site doesn't, I mean, all that, we know that can change, and especially, you know, the total acreage required could change depending on the size of the school we need to build, depending on whether it's elementary or middle or high. So I want to put that out there only for consideration for this and consideration for future projects as we continue to work with these developers to have us as a city not be the intermediary between the school district and the developer. So that we can, the school district can come to the table and have our discussions with the developer about what potential we might need. So.
Yeah, I'd say, one, I guess, almost to your second question. To me, the way the agreement is written, it to me puts all those discussions in play about what school, what kind. I mean, it doesn't, again, remember, it basically says the developer has to do one or the other. And if they decide to donate a site, then I do think it's whatever they negotiate and finds acceptable to the school. I don't see the city having much play in that. So there's nothing in here that prevents that from happening, including the elementary school. I don't think that was a magic word in the agreement. It's just something that can be discussed.
But it could be anything.
And I mean, like any developer, I think you put the right project together, you know, they're going to be open to that idea. I would say, you know, I've talked about this before, the provision that this property goes through the city to the council comes from my own prior experience. And one, I would ask the school district folks to remember, these are deals the city's making. These are the city's deals. And we're putting a lot into it. We're putting money into it. We're putting concessions into it, a lot of effort. And so the district, but like we talked about before, because of the way the district gets funds, it's extremely difficult for them to get really involved at that level at this point in the process. Also, my personal experience in the past has been that I hadn't had every council get along with every school board like we do here. And I've had situations where, and this is what I'm concerned about when I put that in there, if for whatever reason, the city council was totally opposed to whatever idea the school came up with of where they were gonna build, they should have the right to say, no, we're not giving you the property. Now, I don't see that happening, and I'm not saying it has to stay in there, I'm just explaining to you that's where that comes from. But what is similar that I think is pertinent to what we're talking about today is to keep in mind that this is the same concept with the public safety sites. Every one of these MUDs have this same contribution of a 2-acre site to the city that will be donated to the city, that the city chooses how it gets used as a public safety site. In each case, because they won't be in the city police won't be using them. So obviously, be the sheriff's office or the fire department or somebody, but again, same situation. It's not a donation directly to the ESD. It's a donation to the city that we get to control, and so in the same way, I would expect before we hand that land over to the sheriff's office or somebody else, we would know what they're gonna do with it, and the council would agree to that. So it's a control thing, I admit it.
It is, and it's a control thing for us too. And I certainly respect
But
that.
again, we're the one making the deal. I think in the end, the council should have say over, so.
And I certainly don't want to cut the council out of it. I would like to see our school district involved earlier, even if we don't have the ability to bring something to the table.
Okay.
That's my ask.
And I think, and that's what I'm saying, I think the language in this agreement is loose enough where, all that can still happen.